In last week's episode, we talked about the matrix, but we actually just spent our time talking about the lovely organic matrix. That part of what I would class as being part of the new earth, the lovely matrix that we'd all want to be a part of. But this week, me and Rob are going to go into what we define as being the false matrix, that which we are all in at the moment. I'm going to say right now that we're not doing this from any fear. So if you're in any fear, just do a little meditation yourself and go within, go to heart space, and then come back and listen again. Because we are all a part of this. We are all, if we look beyond where we're living as a human in the 3D, if we look beyond what we're using as the five, the five senses in the 3D world, and understand it way beyond our humanness. We understand that we're all part. We've had contracts that say we are learning. Consciousness is learning. It has to learn the darkness, the bad from the good, and understand it. And at that level of consciousness, it just is. Now, Rob, you went in, didn't you, this week, and with your guides, you went
I did.
into your meditation and asked, and you got something so profound. It was fascinating. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, let's have a go. I asked to be shown the false matrix. Okay, so show me this thing.
Mm.
And I immediately got how I would visualize my matrix, the organic matrix normally, which is a light creation, a grid of light.
Mhm.
And then I saw over it, not over it really, but within it, the color drained away from it.
Mm.
And it became almost a lifeless matrix, overshadowing my organic matrix. And then I got words like false prophets. And I was then shown how we take religion and we take the message of religion and skew it to other purposes because it's been taken over by mind control, really.
Mm. Mm.
But then the most profound thing, and some people listening to this will find it really odd, and I would say then just take this as a metaphor. But for me, it was extremely real. I was in a lab, for want of a better word, and I was looking at a being, mostly humanoid, I would say 8 feet tall, in a state of suspension. So I'm not even sure alive, wired up, plugged in, but I was aware that this being was consciously creating a false matrix or feeding into the false matrix. So this creature's brain was, for want of another word, a computer, and it was processing, 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 and putting out false matrix information. I think it's important, though, as I stood watching this creature, that there was no concept of evil or malice or anything untoward going on here. This was a different species with a different reality. And that way of their reality was to control other life forms, other thought forms, to control consciousness. So just as you and I go about our everyday lives and we work on computers, and every time we make a phone call, that phone call is logged somewhere.
Mhm.
This conversation we are having, this podcast, is being logged somewhere and processed.
It
Every
is.
time I use my credit card, it is noted. Every video I watch is noted, and we all know how we get ads thrown back into our social media from what we have been watching or doing or thinking sometimes scary. So it's about the creation, the continual creation by thought of how to control other consciousness or consciousnesses. Is that a word?
I don't even know if that's a word. In the
Yeah,
ultimate of oneness. Yeah,
yeah. But
difficult.
I was able to stand and watch this process
Mm.
and understand the process for 3 or 4 minutes. And it was completely peaceful. I was quite removed from it. So I stood next to this creature, um, unafraid, no fear at all, just observing and realizing that as that creature has a computer in its head, where its brain is, that is now being used to transmit into the false matrix, I can transmit into the organic original matrix. So I need to learn as a human, a conscious human, how to play the game,
Mm.
how to go, that is false. I'm not going that way. I'm going this way and I'm putting this thought process into
Yeah.
my matrix because I don't buy that one. What do you
Mm.
think of all that,
Yeah,
Julie?
I'll step back a bit
Mm,
from what you're saying, and yeah, when we think of a matrix, for my thoughts, what I've seen with my guides is it's very much, as Rob said, like a light grid. Like if you imagine an electricity grid, if you want to
mm,
think of it like that. And also, this electricity grid has a mind of its own, is intelligent consciousness itself. And that's both the false, even though we might call it artificial intelligence, it is been from some organic intelligence, good or bad,
mm.
that has, let's say, installed that. And so also, I see it as mycelium. But it can be nice, pure white mycelium, or it can be, black. And some people talk about black glue. But what I see is like mycelium. And when you might see something in a body that's attached to a false grid, you might see it as a bunch, almost like fiber optic nerve endings. But yeah, more like a fiber optic. So it can be part artificial, can be part organic, and you almost can't tell because again we're looking at senses beyond our our normal 5D sense, five, the five senses that are in the 3D. So when we look at that, we can start to see who, where we're plugging in. And this is what you do because we're also a grid. We also have our mycelium, of our fiber optics as a grid. We tend to plug into different matrices, a different grid. So, for example, we might watch the television and plug into a grid. And if you're watching the news, you're plugging in. And this is where very easily some of the media that we're using can be a form of mind control, isn't it, Rob? As you said, can
Absolutely,
be
it is.
very
Yeah,
much influence to us. And in a way, instead of us being disempowered by that, the first thing we can do is just actually understand that that's what's happening when you're watching. And it's lovely to observe. It's quite cool, quite fascinating to observe and go, hmm, yeah, they're repeating something over and over again. And the way I see it as a hypnotherapist, is that it's like a form of hypnotherapy.
yeah,
And again, I'm going to say tell you this in terms of do not be afraid of this, don't be in fear of this. It just is. It's just happening all the time. And as Rob said, it's up to us not to be disempowered and keep taking it on board. But it's to understand here's the first step in coming away from any grids that you don't want, from any matrices, any falseness that you don't want to be part of. And just the first thing is understanding what is in your discerning in your mind what's false and what isn't. And I'll be part of grids that I'm not even aware of because they're so clever as we're building up our consciousness and raising consciousness to a higher level. So are all other beings as well. And so they're becoming cleverer and cleverer. That's why we know we're bringing in more AI. And again, don't be afraid of that. Some AI is really, really good for us and will help us. And then obviously there'll be AI which isn't. You discern for yourself which is and which isn't. But of all of this, please don't be disempowered. So
yeah,
don't be disempowered and say there's nothing you can do about it. Rob's already mentioned this. There is lots of things we can do. And one of those things is just as AI feeds into our mind control and then we create behaviors around mind control, you can do. You can create things from your own mind anyway, from your organic mind, from your creation. So then to go back to how we are being disempowered or how we are being influenced, and if you're not sure about, is this right? Is this a good matrix or a bad matrix? If there is such a thing, it is to look at money. And everybody knows that phrase, don't they, Rob? Money is the root of all evil.
yeah.
We know as an observer, we know that's just a story. It's quite ancient now, and comes, probably in the 1900s, but literally even before that, people will be in the poverty grid. So even people sort of, to the beginning of time will be in the lack of, the scarcity, the poverty grid. You are plugged into that if you're feeling scarce and lack of. And we have all been there, and we're all there at some level, at certain points in time. If you understand it and just enable yourself to come away from it, unplug, it's absolutely fine. But yeah, so what, instead of like being influenced by it, there you go, you can create it. You've understood. Money's the root of all evil. What does that even mean? Is that my words? So you can ask yourself, would I have even said those words? That they're not a phrase that I would generally use, but I've heard it all over the place. And probably as a young child, I would have heard it and
Yeah.
believed in it. So, what is it you're believing? It affects, in terms of influence and mind control, it affects your beliefs and therefore your behaviors. So, how do you behave? Are the things that you do or don't do? So, as Rob said earlier when we were talking, it's really about, you know, are you are you quite capable of doing that? You might have your limitations. We know we're not limited, but we feel like we're limited in our human self, don't we, Rob?
We do, absolutely. I think it's key to think of the matrix, the false matrix, as parasitic
Yes, yeah,
because
that's a good
it's
idea.
an energy that
Yeah,
feeds off your organic energy
yeah,
and changes it for the worse
mm,
and makes it false, makes you question everything.
mm,
So if you want to confront the false matrix on a very simple level, think about, as you've just said, Julia, money is the root of all evil, and why did I even say that?
mm, mm,
Think of what you say to other people. When did you last put someone down? When did you last patronize someone? When did you last say something about someone behind their back? And ask yourself, is that who I am? Where did that come from? And it's
mm.
it's quite simple. You're being led to say these things beyond your own consciousness.
Yeah,
So it's addressing it all the time, stopping and going, that is not what I want to
mm,
say or do, act, be, and change it step
mm.
by step. Your consciousness and the power that you put out into your consciousness can obliterate any fake matrix.
Yes,
Quite easy.
absolutely.
It is weaker
Mm,
than the organic matrix, but
hmm.
it's sneakier.
It is these days
Yeah,
even more sneakier.
sneakier. It gets
Yeah,
into your own matrix and tangles up with it
it does.
and causes you to not see it often. It's not
Yeah,
realize that it's there, and you fall into habits that you shouldn't be falling into
yeah,
because some energy is controlling you.
yeah,
And whether we like it or not, we are all being controlled.
yeah. We all are. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And the world, it's really clear to see in the world now because
Mm,
it's obvious in big ways. We're about to
mm,
have a global trade war.
yeah.
That'll be interesting.
And
Money's
maybe
just
we need that,
energy.
and maybe we need that chaos in order for it to be something else.
Maybe we do.
It's
Yeah.
us. We have to understand if we talk about timelines, so talk about what you
Yeah.
want to be in this world, remembering that Rob and I have said this before, the false matrix, it's just beings that want to feed off the fear. And it just is. It just is, so that is, let's say, their job. Just as Rob was talking about the guides in the suspended, it's just part of their job. It's just part of what they need or feel like they need to do because they can't create their own power source, not like humans. And the
Yeah.
problem we've got is that humans don't know how powerful they are. And that's all that me and Rob ever want to say. Every single human is, powerful as the next one. Nobody is more powerful than others. It's just a practice. It's just working into your own inner power in order to expand that out into the
Yeah.
world. The ultimate, that's our purpose, is to find
Indeed. And
our
we're
own power.
we're very quick to say raise your consciousness, raise your
Yeah,
vibrations.
yeah,
It's all there. You
yeah,
just need to raise yourself within it, I think,
yeah,
and
definitely.
understand the power of you and how capable and how amazing you are as a thinking, sentient,
Mm,
conscious being. Nothing is impossible,
absolutely.
except when people tell you it is impossible. And you start to question, and that matrix gets its little tentacles right into yours
Yeah, yeah,
and scuppers everything you wanted. So that for me is raising consciousness, is actually being true to your consciousness and understanding it and allowing it and using it more.
Mm.
It's
And that
already
helps
there.
it, yeah, that helps it evolve. Even things like if you think about, you could say we live in a world, and we do, we live in a world that is full of pollution and all sorts of things there. And a lot of people, I will hear you say, well, what can we do about it? There's nothing we can do about it. And I was like that a lot. But when you work with your guides and ask your guides, there are ways that you can use your mind, so you can do mind control over all the things on the external world that you see. So we can actually alchemize any pollution, any polluted products, if you like. So if you have a glass of water, you can alchemize that into the purest water possible to bring inside your body. We look at that, don't we, Rob, on
Yeah.
our, with one-to-one clients and with our
Yeah.
courses and things. It's fabulous. Yeah, we've done it, and people will also remember this. Anybody that's done Reiki, they would have shown you this. And I remember doing Reiki. I think it was
Long
20
time
years
ago.
ago.
Yeah.
Was it 20 years ago, something like that? And did the water then, but didn't really understand it so much. What we know that we are changing the physical molecular structure of water to remove out, to take out and extract out anything that's polluted. Because you will be able to see when you shine your light on water, you're able to see, the hydrogen and the oxygen bonds away from what else is there that shouldn't be there. It should just be pure water. And so it's fascinating to look at that. So that is just something that you can do internally until a world where we're looking at a timeline, new Earth timeline, where everybody's been doing that, and there is less pollution, and they'll work into more doing things, taking action to help it for everybody, so that we don't all have to sit there for so many minutes a day changing all your water
Yeah.
in the house or whatever you need to do. So
Absolutely.
yeah, there are things you literally you just focus on what you do want. Stop all of this continually saying things of what you don't want. I do it as well. I am telling myself off as much as everybody else. Is stop thinking on the things you don't want. Stop focusing on that. When you focus in on the matrices, on the grids, on the earth that you do want to see, and so you change it from within. Don't wait for everybody else. You can change it from within. Use your internal power. You start with your imagination. It's a great way to start. Still going with heart space first. Use your imagination. The brain does not know any difference between what's imagination and what's on the outside. Subconscious mind doesn't know. So the more you look at doing things for subconscious mind by doing it in the imagination, thoughts, it'll just accept it, and then you'll see a different world. You can see, I did something the other day, didn't I, Rob? I was telling you about, and it just changed. The moment changed
Yeah. Yeah.
instantly from what it was to something completely new, just because I declared and commanded, this is what I'm seeing. Thank you for this is what I'm seeing now. This is what's happening now. Immediately something happened in the outside world, and it changed changed the dynamics of everything, and it's amazing. So you can do this, and please be, the ultimate of this is you can be so empowered by
Yeah.
this work. It's lovely.
Absolutely. And do it without any fear at all.
Yes, yeah,
And
that's the key.
just remember that every James Bond film has a villain. They
Yeah.
never win. You
Yes,
can
yes.
outwit anything
Yes,
if
yeah,
you apply yourself.
yeah.
Odd metaphor, but it just struck me.
Yeah.
Uh,
These are all the
yeah, we
things they don't want you to know, isn't it, Rob? They don't want you
exactly.
to, they want you to keep in fear.
Yeah.
Again, we're just doing it from a case. All of this is just from a like shrugging the shoulders. It just stays nonchalant way.
Yeah.
That's all they want. They just want you to be in fear so that you're not in the empowered being that you are, and
Exactly.
will be.
Yeah. You were not born to fear.
Yes,
That is
yeah.
not the purpose of any life that you will ever live.
Mm,
So you have to play it. Play it at its own game.
mm. And be your
And
own hero, as
yeah,
in
play a better
as in the
game.
film. Mm,
Yeah. Just play your cards better than the false matrix does.
yeah.
And you'll beat it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not beating it from a I must beat these people. It's just being so clever in your own way, using your
Absolutely.
imagination. When we work with guides, they give us, that is just using your internal intuition, beings will come down that are benevolent because you've been um, discerning for yourself, and they'll show you ways that you can change things. That's what we're always doing, isn't it, Rob? So it's
Yeah.
just fantastic to do that. So don't be fear, no being in fear. It just is. Okay, doke. So I think on
Right.
that note, that's enough for us. So we will see you next week.
Bye now.